All right, folks, the draft is in the books. Free agency is behind us, and it's time to take a look at my top 10 teams after the draft. And a lot of surprises you might find on this list, and I think equally surprising, some teams that are not on this list. For example, I did not include the Buffalo Bills on my list right now. They got Josh Allen, who I believe is the second or third best quarterback in the NFL, but they don't have much else beyond that. They lost their two best wide receivers. They lost about half of their defensive starters. I did not like what they did in the draft, trading down, and I don't have my list. Same thing with the Dolphins. Right now, I just don't trust what they do. They don't seem to they never win any big games. They have a really hard time beating anyone over 500. So after that, let's get into it. So number 10, I've got the Bears at number 10. A very big surprise for a lot of people out there, but I love what they are doing. Their defense got a lot better towards the end of the year. They got two legit wide receivers, a good tight end, and I think Caleb Williams is going to be good right away. I think he was the most talented player in the draft. I love the draft pick. They have a top 5 wide receiving core, and I just really think what they're doing as well, especially in the NFC where it's a little weaker conference. So I have the Bears at number 10. Number 9, I have the Jets. And this all hinges on if a 40-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury can stay healthy. But I really like what they did, adding Mike Williams. Granted, he's coming off an injury, but that adds depth on their wide receiver, along with their primary wide receiver. They really improved on the offensive line, which was their biggest weakness. And they have they have a very strong defense. But again, they got a 40-year-old quarterback who's coming off an Achilles injury, and we'll see how Aaron Rodgers can hold up throughout the season. Number 8, I have the Bengals. Bengals, I really love their wide receiver core. They got a pretty solid defense. They improved on the offensive line. They took an offensive lineman in the draft. But Joe Burrow's been hurt multiple times in his short 5-year career. And the biggest question right now is, can he hold up? Is he going to stay healthy throughout the year? But I've got the Bengals at number 8. Number 7, the Ravens. And a lot of people are going to say, hey, that's kind of low to have the Ravens. They're in the AFC Championship game. But they didn't do anything to get better this year. I think they are still lacking at the wide receiver position. I love their tight end, Andrews. But what did they do to get better in the offseason? I didn't really see anything that indicates they're going to be better. They lost Patrick Queen, one of their best defensive players. So I don't think they're going to be as good as they were a year ago. So I have them at number 7. Number 6, I have the Eagles. I loved what the Eagles did in the draft. Right now, their weakest spot on their team was their secondary. And what do? They go out and get the 2 best cornerbacks in the draft this year. That's going to make their secondary a lot better. I like Jalen Hurts, and I think they have probably the second or third best wide receiver core in the NFL. So I love the Eagles. I think they are going to win the NFC East this year and get back to the form they were 2 years ago when they made it to the Super Bowl. Number 5, I've got the Texans. I love CJ Stroud. I think he's going to make a huge leap, and I think he'll be a top 4 quarterback after this year. I love that they added Stephon Diggs. They were really playing well at the end of the year. I look for the Texans to have a huge year. I look for them to win the AFC South by a couple games, and I really love what the Texans are doing right now, and I think they've got a lot of talent. I wouldn't say I love their defense, but I think they have a lot of things going for them. Number 4, the Packers. And right now, I think Jordan Love is probably the best young quarterback in the NFL. I think he's going to get even better. And I say young, he's only a couple years younger than Patrick Mahomes. But I think the Packers, I love their quarterback. I like their wide receivers. They're always going to be good on defense. I think the Packers are right now the 4th best team in the NFL. Number 3, I got the Lions. I think they're going to take another step this year. I love their offense. They added some pieces on defense. I think their defense will be a lot better. I think the Lions right now are the 3rd best team in the NFC, and I think they will contend with the 49ers in the NFC this year. Number 2, I've got the 49ers. Up and down their roster, the most skilled team in the NFL. They have more talent than anyone in the NFL. And they added another wide receiver. And for this year, it looks like they're going to keep both Debo and Ayuk, which is going to be huge. They're going to have a very tough offense to deal with when you look at Ayuk, Debo Samuel, McCaffrey, their rookie wide receiver, and then Kittle at tight end. They're going to be very strong. And they got Bosa on defense, but there's a couple things I don't necessarily like about their team. Number 1, outside of Trent Williams, I don't love their offensive line, and I think they are a little soft at the secondary position and at linebacker, especially with Greenlaw coming off an injury. So we'll see how that plays off. But for right now, I think they're by far the most skilled team top to bottom. Injuries are always a concern with their team. They are very heavy on players who are prone to injury. And last year, most of them stayed healthy throughout the playoffs. We'll see if they can do that in the second year in a row. And then number one, I've got the Chiefs. They've got the best player in the world in Patrick Mahomes. They've got an outstanding defense. I don't think the loss of Snead is going to hurt them all that much. They have some players coming back off injury. I think their defense will be just fine. My one question mark about them continues to be wide receiver. With Rashid Rice going to be out for a very large chunk of the season with his legal issues, they're going to be a little soft at wide receiver. Kelsey's getting another year older. You see, he's already slowed down a little bit. I know they got Hollywood Brown, and they drafted Xavier Worthy, the fastest guy in the draft. But Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy are both guys who are very fast, but I don't look at those being every down wide receivers who can make tough catches, extend the chain. So I think they'll struggle at wide receiver a little bit yet until Rashid Rice gets back. But once he get back, if he can be back for the second half of the year and the playoffs, I think they'll be just fine at wide receiver, and I think they'll still be the team to beat. I look for them to win the AFC again and be in the Super Bowl again, and it'll be fun to see what happens here. But those are my top 10 after the draft. Hit me up with any comments. Thanks.